There is a magic bullet, but it is definitely not law of attraction, and it's definitely not reality transurfing. It's nothing external to you. You are the magic bullet,
Mm,
period. You are the magic bullet. Now,
mm.
whatever you need to access to get you into that mode where you become the magic bullet, then that's what you need to go hard on.
I turned 50, y'all, and I started a podcast.
Really, age is just a number. It comes down to how we choose to live and the choices we make in our life, and those things accumulate.
Don't let the programming of life keep you from doing things every single day that make you happy.
When we feel good, it's easy to think good.
Life is not happening to you. You are your life. You are happening to your life. Renee, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. You're coming from all the way across the entire world in Georgia, the former Soviet republic. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a post-Soviet country and it's wild.
Wow. I really appreciate it. I've been really looking forward to this. Before we get started, thank you so much for sending over your bio, and I want to take the time to read it so our listeners can really understand what we're going to get into today. So today I'm talking to Renee Garcia, who is a lifelong entrepreneur, certified reality transurfing instructor, and an alternatives space adventurer. What a great title. Having ventured deeply into the metaphysical world of reality creation, she has transformed personal failure into success, poverty into abundance, sickness into healing, and a bleak perspective into one brimming with joy and magic. Renee has employed reality transurfing to discover fulfillment, true purpose in her life, and connect with the highest version of herself. With a self-built practical methodology and magical wand in hand, she is now empowering others around the world to do the same. Her motto is, knowledge without application is merely entertainment. With a rapidly growing following of fellow transurfers at her side, Renee brings to light the work of Vadim Zeeland. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Mm-hmm. She brings his works at home and worldwide. She has developed the only English language reality transurfing instructional program officially approved by Zeeland. And this training serves as the backbone for the International Transurfing Institute, which she founded in 2016. Wow. Thank you. Wow. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm
That's
happy to
lot.
be here. This is my first podcast since I've moved. So it's like a whole new world I'm tuning in from.
Awesome. Well, why don't we start with that? Can we share a little bit about what precipitated the move to Georgia and maybe a little bit of what you're doing there, what you're excited about?
Yeah. So as a transurfer, one of the fundamentals that we sort of adhere to is that when you're open to possibilities and you are in an active state of listening to your world and your internal dialogue, your internal sensations, that things can sort of pop up. And that's exactly what happened for me with moving to Georgia. I came here last summer with another transurfer who was moving here, and I'd always wanted to come, and I kind of had this I don't want to say fascination, but there was always just this little thing in the back of my mind that I knew that I wanted to come here. But anytime I had a travel companion and I would mention coming to Georgia, I would get, met with this like, where, what, where is this place? And it was just always sort of pushed to the back burner of places to go. And I came here last year, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And it was a very we call it heart and mind coordination in transurfing. It's when your heart just absolutely feels something and then your mind quickly gets involved in the logic of the situation. So this is exactly what happened. I had this like explosion of energy and passion and feeling amazing about this place. And then at the same time, I was like, oh my God, I could have this amazing lifestyle and own a big, huge, opulent home outright. And business here is very easy. It's ranked one of the top places to do business in the world for ease of, red tape and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So just very quickly, I saw that it was a possibility. And I talked my partner of 5 years into us both getting rid of everything we owned. We came here with 2 suitcases each and 2 dogs. He had never been here before. And we got rid of everything in the US and we moved here about 3 months after I first came here and saw it. So
Wow.
it's been a wild time. It's amazing. It's exhilarating. And I have to say, I feel like a teenager again, or somebody in my early 20s, like experiencing so much newness and, just exhilaration.
Yes.
It's wild.
Yeah. I love what you said of just being open to possibility. I mean, that just tapping into all of the infinite possibilities that are available to us at any time, right? And then just kind of cluing in on that.
Exactly what transurfing is about.
Yay, I'm kind of getting it. That's it. Well, it's funny because as I read your story, and how, I could see that, in your early experiences, you were kind of doing some of the things without knowing you were doing it and kind of going with the flow and kind of ebbing and flowing. And then later you had more of the knowledge and the understanding and the expertise and kind of could reflect back on what was happening. But as I was reading your story, I felt like, oh, I see how I do that sometimes, and
yes.
And we can be in the flow of it. But I've always been really interested in this idea of possibility, because I truly do believe that it's limitless, if we can tap into that. So I love that you started with that. The other thing,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I just want to touch on one point briefly before we move on.
Yes.
It is that openness to possibilities, because really the only thing that separates us from that space is ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So it as long as you can continue to acknowledge that, when you're talking about how you saw some parallels with my own story of, oh, I'm sometimes doing that. That's when you're in that state of not allowing yourself to kind of like be the wrench in the deal, and I think now more than ever, people look so much at the world that surrounds them as being the adversarial thing, the thing that's creating complications, the thing that's always the component that's problematic, but it's actually ourselves. The world is always in our favor if we choose it to be.
Yes.
Not to border on hokey motivational.
No, I 100%, I'm in line with what you're saying. And it truly is a perspective change. It's a simple in my opinion, a simple perspective change. It is like the world is against me and everything's, all of these things, all of these problems, all of these circumstances, all of my bad luck, all of the, and then you can flip it and just see all of the possibility and where can I enter into flow? I mean,
yep.
It's amazing. And I've been so excited to kind of follow you. I was originally introduced to this concept through Jessa Reed. I don't know if you know who Jessa Reed is.
I've heard of her speaking of transurfing, or people have said that she speaks of transurfing, but I don't know much.
Yeah. So she is a comedian, but she is a way shower. She is a teacher. She is an intuitive. I mean, she is so connected to this work. And anyway, so that's how I came to know of it. And so I've been following you for multiple years, mostly through Instagram because I'm not on Facebook. But then I've been reading your the work you did, A Tale of Practical Reality Transurfing, and I'm just so fascinated and grateful to talk to you. But for people who have no idea what the hell we're talking about, can you, which is most of my listeners, because I'm the person who they're like, okay, what is she talking about? But if you could just kind of explain it in a couple of minutes, just if you were talking to somebody in an elevator, how would you explain reality transurfing?
Okay, so this has taken me like years to kind of cultivate a way to really break it down simplistically so virtually anyone can understand it, because before, when I was asked that, I would think to myself, well, are they asking me from like a quantum physics perspective or a psychological perspective or a general, how should I shape this knowledge for the one asking? But now I've sort of boiled it all down to anybody that asks me, this is kind of my stock response. So there are an infinite number of realities that we have access to. And we experience this all the time because we're changing, we're moving around the world, we're changing jobs, we're having children, we're doing all different kinds of things that is practical reality transurfing, right? What reality transurfing is as a practice is doing it intentionally with the intention that you're going to move up in layers of reality, as I like to sort of lay them out. So any given day, what I do for myself, this is part of my transurfing practice, is I acknowledge, just to kind of make it a little more bite-sized and not so vast with saying like infinite, right? Because infinite can be a little bit overwhelming. But on any given day, I say that I have 10 different versions of reality available to me. And I imagine them as being tracks that are kind of linear, stacked upon each other. The very top track is my absolute highest and best. This is me killing it in that given day. It's me being offered opportunities. It's me seizing opportunities. It's me experiencing a stroke of good luck. It's me finding a new romantic partner. It's me having an adventure. It's me living my best life, right?
Right.
Then level 0 or level 1 is the polarized version of that. It's me not able to get out of bed. It's me feeling suicidally depressed, anxiety, feeling like I don't know where it is that I'm going or who it is that I am, having negative thoughts about myself and my world. So you can navigate, and we've all been there, right? Level 10 and level 0. We've all experienced those, I mean, most of us have, and all the various shades in between. Reality transurfing is about, first of all, you not going to those bottom layers any longer because you understand what gets you there, what keeps you there, and then how to also ascend out of those places. But reality transurfing is a practice that helps you to understand the bottom and not go in there anymore, and then to get yourself even higher. And what I like to tell people is that, let's say your average is you're a level 5, you're in the middle, right? If you learn to actively transurf, your baseline moves up. My baseline used to be like level 2 or level 3, not suicidally depressed, but pretty damn close, right? Then as I learned to transurf, my baseline moved up. So now my baseline is like a 7 or an 8. And I frequently hit that level 10, right? So it's all about just, shifting your perspective and therefore shifting your experience of reality and understanding the mechanics of how reality actually works when it comes to the human being psychology and that interaction between human and reality, and reconciling the different methods in reality transurfing to like really get you to a much higher and elevated place consistently and long term, getting more of what it is that you want in life.
Exactly. Beautiful. So it's a set of kind of, I'm going to just try to reflect back to you. So it's information and knowledge and tools about the world and the way the world and humans work that we can learn and access to elevate our lives and get and be in experience with what we want, and continually, what I call it is an upward spiral. That's how I see it, as an upward spiral,
Yes,
as opposed to a
exactly.
downward,
Yep.
Is
that
is that kind of a Joanna way to say it?
Yes. So what I typically tell people is gauge where you're at. If level 5, mid-level reality, is kind of like ground zero, and you really don't want to spend much time below that, your ideal is to get above that and spend as much time as you can above that. So the first half of the transurfing concepts, I like to say that there's 13 core concepts. The first half is to like get you up out of that hole, get you onto level foundation, and then it's on top of that level foundation that you build your new reality, and that's the second half of the concepts. So it's learning why you're down in those lower levels, and then using the concepts to help get yourself out of that space, and then using the latter part of the concepts, which are like heart and mind coordination, which I touched on, what led me here, right? Helping me to build this new reality, this fantastic new reality, this new adventure that I'm experiencing. This was all the second part of the concepts, the more advanced.
Right.
So it's really just a new language. The wording is pretty novel and pretty there's a lot of points in transurfing that people recognize from all sorts of things like Tibetan Buddhism and Kabbalah stuff and law of attraction. There's a mix. It's a potpourri really of a lot of different things, but the verbiage and the wording is unique and it's novel. So it's like a really tight, very comprehensive system that can help people to do amazing things. I mean, I'm doing amazing things, and those in my reality that are practicing this stuff are doing amazing things.
I believe it. I think it sounds like in the first, in the beginning stages, it's a big shift for people to kind of go through the world thinking that life is happening to them, and everything is just a consequence of bumping up against everything in the world, and like and, and the switch to realizing, as what you said, the world is happening for me if I can just tap into that flow. And it's just and if we can realize, because that is so empowering, right? To understand that we have a say. Right?
Huge.
Like,
especially if you read my book, I mean, I talk about my upbringing, my child, lack of education, poverty, really living a life where we were not offered a different variation of reality. It was like, well, everyone for the past 10 generations have lived like this. Oh, are you too good for this? You're saying you're too good for this kind of life now? It was like, it was almost as if you attempted to break out and do anything better for yourself, you were highfalutin or there was something wrong with you.
Yeah.
So when you have that sort of, we call it programming in transurfing, when you have that sort of programming on top of you and it's heavy, then that's when you feel victimized by reality. And you gave this amazing analogy of just kind of bumbling around, bumping up against reality and feeling like, why is the world doing this to me? Like, what have I done to deserve this? But it's really just a person being out of understanding of exactly what is happening in that kind of scenario and what part the human is playing in that, which I know that you know about the thoughts, actions, and frequency.
Yes.
When you are, can I swear or should I not swear?
Yes. Oh yeah, you can do anything.
Okay. When your thoughts, actions, and frequency are super fucked up, your world is super fucked up. There's no way around it. It's really like the law of attraction, deep law of attraction stuff.
Right.
It's the law of attraction on steroids. It is getting into the reasons why the law of attraction is even a thing. So it's the background behind it.
Right.
And when you understand, people encounter law of attraction and they're like, oh, well, I read The Secret and it worked once, but then it never worked. And then I felt like it just, and I hear all these like hit and miss, hot, cold kind of things. But as soon as you realize what knowledge is actually backing up things like The Secret and law of attraction, you see very, very quickly what reality actually is and why even some people have results sometimes with law of attraction and then they don't. It explains everything. There's really, if you get into the knowledge, there's really no question that goes unanswered at all. And that's why I fell in love with it, because I'm kind of like, I had to really fend for myself in this world. And what that did for me is it gave me a very fine-tuned sense of street smarts, where somebody's talking to me and they're explaining something to me and I'm like, okay, that sounds good, but you need to show me why that's not bullshit, right? You need to, like, I'm not taking anything at face value at this point in my life.
Right.
I need to see exactly why this thing works or I'm not going to trust it. So I went through the knowledge with a fine-tooth comb and I legitimately could not see any holes in it. And I was like, okay, this is not bullshit. This is real. Then I realized I had to do this.
So this is bringing me to what I wanted to ask you, because I know from reading your story that you were on a path where you were touching into this naturally. You were starting to, use these concepts kind of instinctively. You were doing it for yourself. But tell me about the point where you came across this structured knowledge and you realized that, by researching and making sure there were no holes in it, and then really incorporating that into your life. Like, what was that point where you found reality transurfing and the specific knowledge?
Yeah. So as you stated, I was really doing like a lot of things well. I had a life from my late 20s to my mid 30s that was, people really couldn't understand what the hell I was doing. I have a 9th grade education. I never went to college. I didn't have any formal training in any type of field or business or anything. And by the age of like 31 years old, I had my own sailing yacht in Marina del Rey that I lived on and was a thriving entrepreneur. And people were like, how the hell are you doing this? And I was like, I'm just doing it, and I couldn't quite explain what it was that I was doing, but I was really just like generating as much positive stuff in my environment that I could, because I was in survival mode. I had to do this to find success because I really didn't have any other means to find success. It was all dependent on me being the best version of myself that I could possibly be, and being able to spot opportunity and really go in as much as I could and maximize and extract from every situation that I could find. And I became extremely cunning and resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the different, elements of transurfing, I was doing them naturally, but I still had some pretty faulty programming that was like seriously fucking me up,
Mm-hmm.
like poverty mentality. Even though I lived on my own yacht, I had beautiful jewelry and clothes and nice cars and an amazing business with a name for myself. I had extreme poverty mentality. I felt like shit about myself when it came to my romantic relationships. So I was in this state where I was just kind of like up and down and all over the place. And yeah, sometimes we're good, but I had these crushing lows as well, because I thought, how do I'm getting all the stuff that I always told myself that I needed. So how am I still waking up in the morning feeling like crap? And eventually this led to me having a pretty epic nervous breakdown while I was in Los Angeles. Kind of one of those, 25th hour moments where I'm like, who am I? What am I doing? What have I done? Who have I become? Is this really me? And I just kind of chucked the entire LA life, got rid of everything, went into the forests and the Oregon, Central Oregon mountains, and started doing research on how to get myself like right with myself. And after I found transurfing, I mean, things just started to click, and I'd be like, oh yes, that's why that happened. Or, oh yes, this is why I still feel like shit. And I just started to really, really take a look at it without making any excuses or pushing something to the back burner and being like, oh, well, it's just who I am. I am who I am. There was no more of that. that was done. It was like, get real time, and transurfing helped me to do that.
That's really interesting. So you found that through your research, and then you started studying the information and trying to evaluate it to make sure there was, like you said, no holes before you really incorporated it into your own life.
Yeah. And once I did that, I started to, there were no holes, and I would be like, okay, I'm going to do this like 100%. And I would feel this incredible power and control of my reality. And, we call it the rose-colored lenses. I would be so like, God, I've got this thing down and everything's going well. And I would feel on top of the world, level 10. And then a week later, I'd wake up and I would be depressed again. And I was like, well, wait a second, this isn't right. What's going on? I was taking for granted what it was that I needed to actively do consistently to override that old programming. Otherwise, that old programming would just kind of leak back in, and it would take over everything and kind of lull me to sleep. And I wouldn't realize it until it was already too late. So then I switched back and forth like that a couple times. And after the final time, I thought, you know what, this is it. I'm not doing the back and forth anymore. I'm going to go all in on this 100%. So I never have to like let that old programming kind of come in and take over and then wake up and realize what I've done. And the only way that I could figure at that point of how to do what I wanted to do, which was be 100% in transurfing mentality, was to, do what I'm doing, spread the word, get it out there, become this character that you've seen, and it has been my way to keep me immersed and a full-time reality transurfer. And it's worked. And I've done it every day for the last 7.5 years. And it's been the best decision I've ever made in my life.
So a couple of things that really stood out for me is that yes, this is these are important concepts, and it can be understanding, it can be a simple switch that's flipped. But what you're saying is, and I totally agree, is that just like anything, it takes dedication and work. Like just having the knowledge or just understanding it doesn't change your life. I mean, that will begin the process for sure, but like, it's work. You've got to reprogram. You've got to actually do the work on a daily, on an hourly basis. Like yeah,
it's got to be, it's got to become, I mean, there are reasons why Tibetan monks walk the villages with nothing except an empty bowl, so people put food in it, and have no personal belongings and walk around for decades with no shoes on. There is a reason why they're doing that.
Right.
That is because they're in practice when they're doing that. So I think part of the reason why the law of attraction is so damaging to our culture is because it teaches people, or tries to teach people, that you can just manifest $1 million. You can, you could, if you wanted to, you could wake up and have a Lamborghini in your driveway, right? Well, when you get to a certain point, if I wanted to have a Lamborghini in my driveway tomorrow morning, I could, right? But it's because I've done the work. Like, there is a vast understanding of how the world works, and I just have the resources to do it, right? And I know how to get something like that going, and move and operate and get something done. But what happens is people, and I've actually spoken on this in my book, where people come to things like transurfing or law of attraction or whatever the newest, latest, and greatest thing is. They come and they say, okay, well, I want my amazing life. And the second they don't see it, they discount the knowledge as being faulty, or worse, themselves. Oh, I guess that just isn't for me, right? But there are no shortcuts.
That's exactly what I was just thinking when you were talking. There are no shortcuts.
I mean, amazing things can happen. I call them candy bridges, right? Me coming here to Georgia, this was a candy bridge. If you saw the house that I bought outright, no mortgage, first time I've ever owned a home, just flat out. This house is the most amazing house that I've ever seen in Georgia. And I'm in the real estate business here now, so I've seen a lot of places, and I'm like, how did this happen that I got the coolest house? This was a candy bridge. I came here, I saw how inexpensive it was. Granted, it's not for everybody. It's still a developing country, but it was for me. It was magical. It had all the things that I wanted. But I saw a candy bridge allowing me to access some of my goals easier than if I was at home in the US trying to hammer a square peg into a round hole. So there are shortcuts in the sense that your world is going to offer you ways in which you can more easily get something that you want. But if you think that you're going to go from that bottom level of reality, level 0, level 1, and then suddenly you're going to be on level 10, and that's just going to be permanent, that's going to be your new baseline, and you're going to get everything you want because you saw a book or a course or something, what I like to tell people is there is a magic bullet, but it is definitely not law of attraction, and it's definitely not reality transurfing. It's nothing external to you. You are the magic bullet, period. You are the magic bullet. Now, whatever you need to access to get you into that mode where you become the magic bullet, then that's what you need to go hard on. But if you're not the magic bullet in your life right now, it's because you're being lazy, or you're discounting things because they're not happening quick enough for you, or you're maintaining low thoughts, actions, and frequency, and you
Yes.
refuse to give up your suffering, because this
Yes.
is one of the number one addictions for human beings, is their suffering. And you've got to do what it takes to get what it is that you want and not stop. We emphasize in reality transurfing power of choice, choosing what it is you want. But it doesn't mean that you just choose it and then the world delivers it to you on a silver platter. You have to choose it today, then you've got to choose it tomorrow, then you've got to choose it the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and you just keep choosing it. But it will come if you do that. But most people don't want to put in the work. That's the problem.
It is. It is work. I mean, it's doing everything that it takes to support what you want in your life. And you're right, like the laziness and whatever. But the other thing I just want to go back and acknowledge what you said, which is that the way you were able to keep this totally, I don't think you used the word alive in your life, and you were learning it and staying totally in tune with this knowledge and this skill set, was to become a leader and a teacher and a propagator of this information. And one of the things that really stood out for me in your book was, you said, I often tell people who've messaged asking how to deal with a reality that they have grown to hate, my answer is always the same. Find yourself an epic creative project that brings you unadulterated pleasure and throw yourself into it with reckless abandon. And that's what you're doing.
Yes.
And when I read that, I was like, yes, this is it. This is exactly it.
It puts us in contact with our creator mode.
Yes.
When you can go into this place where you're not stuck ruminating in your shitty thoughts, your shitty thoughts about how shitty your life is or what isn't going right, or it doesn't matter. It could all be going to hell. But if you can find a way to pull yourself out of your mind and pull yourself away from the dramas in your world and focus on something that creates fiery passion inside of your body, something that you are enthusiastic about and you love. And it could be anything, and it could change all the time. I mean, I know that I went through a vast array of creative activities, but it didn't matter. It was just about me. We call it the center screen. It was just about me existing in the center screen so I could really develop a very firm connection with that creator's mode. And as soon as you get comfortable in that space, you're like, okay, what do I want to do now? Like what can I create now? And I've done some amazing stuff this last 7 years. I mean, there are things that I look back on. We just hit 1 million hours. Imagine, try to think about this number. 1 million hours of watch time on our Transurfing channel that only has 22,000 people. A million hours, and there's only 22,000 people. 7 years ago, I was terrified of being on camera. We just hit 1 million hours. So you can, and the channel's only 3 years old. So you can really pull yourself into some pretty amazing accomplishments if you can get into this space, get comfortable with it, figure out ways to manage your reality so you can have some peace and quiet to do your shit that you want to do, and then stay there as long as you can until you really feel like you're getting into it and you love it, and then you move on to something better, and you move on to something better. And then this equates to all sorts of things. It equates to making money. Then you can be like, okay, what kind of thing can I create that'll offer value to somebody out in the world that they'll want to buy? And then it's like, and then you're in that mode and you're doing that thing, and then people are paying you for it. And you're
Yes.
like, wow, this is amazing. So now what? And it just, it,
Yes.
it just goes,
It's beautiful. I love that you have this focus on getting into creator mode, because I know for me in my life, the last 3 or 4 years of my life has been I made a firm decision to get into creative mode, which I'm also an entrepreneur and spent my whole adult life being an entrepreneur, and that's fine. And that got me a lot of places and a lot of things and a lot of experiences. But I really understood about 4 years ago that I desperately wanted and craved to be in creator mode. And it has absolutely changed my life. I mean, to be able to focus on that aspect and just to do something purely because it gives you pleasure.
Oh,
And it's like a revelation. It's like being inside
oh
of,
God, sing it, sister. It really
yes,
is. It is like a revelation.
yes,
I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. When I started to do this thing that I'm doing now, I was on fire, and I didn't have an audience yet. I didn't have the following. I didn't have the people, around me. I was doing it alone. I was living in an Airstream on my grandparents' property, and I had just the most amazing time with myself. My doors were open onto a beautiful Oregon landscape and garden. I was in there just writing away, and I just felt alive for the
yes,
first time in my life. I was like, this is it. So when you find that thing, the power of not letting the people in your life or your circumstances take that away, or your own mind.
yeah,
Yes,
your own dumb
absolutely.
thoughts.
Oh, totally, totally. I mean, there were times, and I actually just spoke about this in my latest course that I dropped, Exiting the Matrix, when I decided that I wanted to do this thing, and everyone in my life was like, God, you're going to stop doing your business to do this? How does this make any sense? Who is this author? What is this book? What are you going to do? Like,
Right.
people didn't understand it. And my own thoughts would get in there and be like, God, is this stupid? How is this going to make sense? What is it that, like, how do you see this unfolding? But and as I said, transurfing, there are no holes. It doesn't matter. You don't have to answer all of that stuff, because that state of being, that
Yes.
creator's mode, that heart and mind coordination, it'll figure out a way to make anything work. Like
Yes.
anything. You could throw your wildest idea into the world, but if you're 100% feeling it, you'll figure something out. It'll happen. So
I totally
it's
agree.
all about, what do you want and how badly do you want it. The sweatshirt you're wearing, is that the artist on Instagram?
Yes.
That dude is a total creator.
Ramin Nazer. Yes. Ramin
Yes,
Nazer.
he's doing exactly what it is
I know.
that we're talking about. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
And
yeah.
he actually, so I met him or know of his work through Jessa Reed. He did the art for her first, a lot of her stuff. And then he actually did the artwork for my podcast. But this is a Jessa Reed sweatshirt. I'm wearing it in honor of you, because she's the one who led me to you. But so
Wow, what a weird, like, full circle
I
thing.
know. Well, you know what? Because we're all kind of connected to the same source. We're all on this
Into the same
wavelength.
frequency.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
I would love to get into a couple of the transurfing concepts. Although
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to really, like, obviously get into it, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm kind of obsessed with the concept of pendulums.
Yeah.
And I know that's a big subject, but, like, would that be something worthy of talking a little bit about and kind of
Yeah. I
explaining?
mean, pendulums are really, it's a good introductory, introductory concept for those new to transurfing, because it opens your eyes immediately. You're like, oh shit, oh my God, it really is the case. And then that kind of like is a little bit of verification that transurfing is what it is, right? Because pendulums, especially when you're new to transurfing and we look at pendulums from the negative perspective, it's very clarifying to people. Like, oh my God, I see it so clearly now. Like all of a sudden you're awake, like at Neo in the Matrix, right? When they tell him that he's in a machine and he's got all these tubes hooked up to him. This is pretty much what pendulums, the concept, does for most people when they first read transurfing. So pendulums essentially are energetic entities, man-made, but there are natural pendulums as well, but we'll just focus on the man-made ones. Energetic entities that are man-made, their sole intention is to feed off of your energy and extract your energy so that they can swing. And the swing means a number of things for them. The swing means more money, more power, more whatever it is that they're looking for, more views, more clicks, more political anger, more whatever. The swing means all those things, but at the same time, as the swing gets going more drastically, it appeals to an even wider and wider audience, therefore captivating more and more people. And then pendulums take on, and when they reach like, you know, godlike status, like the political pendulum in the US, virtually everyone is tuned in, right? It's like we all become hypnotized by the swing of the pendulum. And what the pendulum does is the pendulum forces us to take a position, right? If you're not aware of what is going on, you will have no other choice than to take a position, because it will appeal to all kinds of specific parts of who you are, your morals, your emotional triggers, your past, all kinds of things that touch deep, deep, deep down within. And you think that you're consciously doing something like, oh, well, this political party really is the right political party, and I believe in this thing, so I'm going to support this thing. And you think that it's your own thoughts and you think that's your own decision, but it's actually not. You've been manipulated by a pendulum, and the people that are tuned into these pendulums more and more and more, like more so than others, that I like to say it's like you've got a connector, like some sort of, you know, energetic connection, and the person is just getting bled of these people that are like on Facebook all the time or watching the news all the time in heated political debates, you know, on their computers and talking shit. You know, these are people that are like captured. We call them pendulum food. Really. And the problem with pendulums is when you are in this mode, your thoughts are not your own, but more importantly, more valuably, your energy is not your own. So when we were just touching on creator's mode a moment ago, you have no time or energy for creator's mode when you're pendulum food. And pendulums do not want that for you. So they convince you how important it is that you tune into the nightly news or stay engaged in that political debate online or whatever the thing is. And they convince you of that importance, and it keeps you distracted from what it is your real, like what your soul really needs to be doing. The pendulum essentially owns your soul. I know it sounds super fucked up, but that's kind of what it is.
No, 100%. So a total energy. It's like an energetic vampire.
Yep.
That sucks your energy and your mind and your soul.
Yes, everything. It takes everything.
Now, do you, I can see the examples that you gave now and in your writings. But do you also feel that can it happen on an individual level, like with individual people?
100%.
That, yeah, yeah,
100%. And
right.
yeah, I mean, pendulums, it's a vast concept. The main help to people is understanding that energetics suck, like you're talking about the vampire, on you, just kind of extracting everything. But once you start to study the concept, you realize that your romantic relationship can be, well, everything's a pendulum. Everything's a pendulum. But there's pendulums that serve us and there's pendulums that don't serve us. And what I like to say is, if the pendulum doesn't know your name, or if you are challenged at any given point to understand what it is you are actually gaining, not perceived gains, right? Not, well, it makes me feel like a good citizen, or it makes me feel as though I'm on top of the world events when I watch the news. Those are perceived gains. But if you don't have something physically tangible coming into your home that's actually enhancing your life, then it's just a perceived gain, right? Transurfing falls back on a lot of like stuff physically materializing in the world. And if you are lacking money, you don't have the house you want, you don't have the lifestyle you want, and you are sitting at home on your computer on Facebook watching the news, feeling like the world is all going to hell, that pendulum is offering you nothing tangible that's actually good for your life. It's convincing you that it's giving you something, but it is all merely an illusion. This can happen with relationships. This can happen with professional, our professional world. This can happen with ourselves and our own minds. It can happen in lots and lots of ways. Alcohol, drugs, eating, pharmaceuticals, religion, politics, news, you name it. It's a matter of really sitting down and dissecting the situation and saying, am I giving it more than I'm getting, or am I getting my fair shake for what I'm giving, right? And it becomes this balance. But what happens is when you balance it properly and you're getting more than you're giving, then you're on the upswing energetically,
right.
not the pendulum. So it's a balancing thing, and it's a lot of it has to do with equilibrium and understanding what is throwing you off and what is influencing you, really. And is it for the positive or for the negative?
Influencing, and you said it now, and in your writing, distracting. It's like, even just as a human, just becoming aware of all of the things that can distract us off of our intentional course of what we get to be up to. It's like, what is distracting me, and just becoming aware and in tune, and being able to kind of pop in and out of that, and okay, recognize that, so
yeah.
I just found this concept of pendulums, and I still do. I mean, it's a huge concept. It's like a basic concept that I think is a foundational concept that you've got to really wrap your brain around to start off with, to even move forward.
It is kind of like, ground zero.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere, as I refer in my book, and I've said this a lot to my community. You're not going anywhere when pendulums are ripping your fucking face off, right? When pendulums are on you, ripping your face off, you're not going to excel in your reality. You've got to get a hold of it, and maintaining awareness consistently, maintaining awareness of what you're inviting into your world. And I notice it now. I notice it like when a person comes to me, and I give everyone the same respect and the same face time initially, but as soon as I sense that there are any vampiric qualities there is no more. There is no more guilt or, oh, well, I should be friends with this person because they're, this, or they live close to me, or I've got to do this. I'm just like, nope. And my boyfriend has noticed sometimes that I'm very like, I can
Mm,
just throw that
yep.
down.
Yep.
And this is just, this is self-preservation,
I was just going
and
to say it's self-care. I
very,
see it as self-care.
yeah,
Boom.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm not doing that.
No. I mean, it's so true. And I think even I don't know that you talk a lot about this. I haven't read all of your work and all of your writing, but there's also this specific programming for women too, because we are way more programmed to bend over backwards and serve and take care of others at our expense.
Oh,
Men
yes.
men aren't always programmed in the same level that we are. So
Oh, yeah.
we've got to go through these additional deep layers of deprogramming, because
Oh,
in order to
yes.
be a good person,
Yeah.
we need to take care of and sacrifice ourselves, and martyrdom and victimhood and the
Yeah.
whole you
Oh,
know.
I went through that in a massive way before I moved from California to Montana about 2 years ago. My sister, right before COVID happened, got diagnosed with stage 3 plus breast cancer with 3 young kids at home, right before COVID happened. Went through nightmarish chemo, double mastectomy, full hysterectomy, the works. And I
Oh,
was the only family member in town. And yeah, it was like this, written in stone sort of thing that I had to show up, and I did. I 100% did, because I wanted to, and it was my choice. But there was also this crazy, she was doing her victim, we're from this place, and all this old programming. And here I am just rubbing right up against it, kind of seeing the whole thing playing out, aware of what I'm doing. But at the same time, I know that it can't be permanent, right?
right.
So I waited until she got cleared. She eventually got cleared, and then I was like, I'm moving to
Yeah.
Montana. I'm peacing out, right? Because I knew that it was just going to be, I saw it through the first massive leg, and then after that I was like, okay, that is where I'm at my limits. I'm going to begin to
Yes.
suffer. I was already suffering, but I'm
Yes.
going to begin to really, really suffer. And these are hard calls that, just as you put it, women, with this immensely heavy programming of
Mm,
needing to be caregivers. And thankfully, I saw through it. We moved to Montana. We lived there a year and a half. Beautiful place. But then I saw here, and we jumped over here. And
mhm,
now, I'm happy for the moves that I've made, but it
mhm.
hasn't come without me needing to make calls that were very challenging to make at
Yeah.
certain times. But I always come first, no matter what.
You know, yes, yes, and yes, and yes to every single freaking thing you said, because if by holding our boundaries, being aware of what we're choosing to expose ourselves to, and if we could all take the responsibility to be aware of that, and guard ourselves and take care of ourselves, as opposed to this world of people running around expecting other people to just do for them, and I've got to do this
Yes.
for them. It's like, no,
Yeah.
everyone needs to figure out yourself. Like, and
Yeah.
I've had to reverse programming of like the guilt. And you talk about this, the guilt and the remorse and the shame of like, I'm going to say it as specifically as a woman, having to say, no, I choose fucking me. I'm choosing me
Yeah.
every day I wake up. And by choosing me, I'm taking a stand for fucking you, by the way,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you know?
But those that are heavily programmed, they're like, I know, and
Yes.
I joke about this all the time. The Salem witch trial days, I
Yeah.
would have been burned at the
Yeah.
stake.
Yeah.
Like I would
Yeah.
have been
For
burned
sure.
for sure, because yeah, I mean, and you probably would have too,
Yeah.
because you once you see this stuff, and like you said, when you take a stand for yourself, you're also showing other
Yes.
people, like, you know, me not playing into my sister's victimhood, or I played into it for just a little bit because she was going through nightmarish cancer
Yeah.
stuff, but only to a certain point. It's like, listen, me playing into your victimhood does not serve you
Right.
long term, you know,
Right.
it doesn't serve anybody. Like everybody does have to really sit down at a certain point in their life and assess the game that they've created for themselves and what it is you want. I mean, if your sister gets cancer and you go into, you know, absolute caregiver nurturing mode, and this ignites you and you feel amazing, and you get home and it sucks because you don't want to see your sister going through that, but it is your zone, then more power to you. But if you're coming home depleted,
Right.
thinking,
Right.
God, is there going to be a way out of this?
Right.
My self-care is non-existent. I'm depleted. I feel like shit. I mean, really getting in there and asking yourself, like,
Yes.
is this maintainable? And if the answer is no, then it's about you doing the things that you need to do, you know?
Absolutely. Now, what other, in the last, 10, 15 minutes of our time here is, I have all of these different concepts that you talk about, the balancing important levels, the mechanisms of reality creation, the wave of fortune, the soul frail. What would be one that you'd want to make sure we touched on today?
Well, for me, and this is a little bit advanced transurfing, but for me, the soul frail is a concept that has liberated me beyond anything that I could have ever asked for myself. I had no idea what the soul frail even was. And I was so tuned away from the frail of my soul. So the soul frail is like this specific little intricate code of what makes you an individual, without all the programming, without all the shoulds and, you know, standards that society's putting on you, or, oh, my role is at this or my role is at that. This is who you really, really, really are as a standalone individual. Your wants, desires, unique characteristics, your talents and abilities, the things that you enjoy, your passions, all that kind of stuff. And getting back to those levels of reality, when you are tuned to the frail of your soul, meaning when you are maximizing that, all that stuff, and you're in that space being who you really are, you begin to resonate at a frequency that corresponds to a higher version of reality. And the more you tune to the frail of your soul, the more you begin to merge with this higher version of reality. So it's almost like you don't have to try to do anything external to you. All you've got to do is work on getting into that space and understanding that space and who you are deeply, at a very, very deep level, and stop making excuses for you not to be who you are. I mean, you see my Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my other social media stuff. I'm kind of like throwing it all out there,
Mm-hmm.
doing some pretty like edgy stuff for the self-help community, but this is who I am. And for a long time, I was like, oh no, I got to conform and fit within these standards of what I perceive a self-development person to be like. But that was tuning away from who I was. So I wasn't getting the exact results that were beneficial to me. As soon as I allowed myself to be myself and trusted the knowledge to the extent where I knew, okay, I could tell people super intimate, really crazy things about my past and use those as examples to learn from. As soon as I trusted the knowledge enough to like throw myself into the world and be who I really am and just not give a fuck, my life started to really, really get good. And I don't know much about Jessa Reed, but I do, from what I do know, I think she's existing in this space as well. She's doing her, you know, and she's not making any kind of excuses or trying to do anything that isn't her. And if one thing will screw you up and screw your life up to the extent that you will go down a freaking, you know, we call them induced transitions, spiral down to those lower levels of reality, it is you not being you. So the value of you being you and being different, and then understanding why your world actually wants this for you, and how pendulums will convince you that it's inappropriate. But if you let it go and you just show it anyway, it's like the world starts offering you some pretty cool shit.
Girl, I don't go to church, but I'm just telling you, this feels like church to me. This feels like church. I'm just like, yes, queen, yes. Tell me more.
I know, it's so good. It is so good.
You know,
I'm a believer.
Yeah, I'm a believer. I remember, I don't know if this is part of what you're talking about, but I remember there was a change on Instagram, and it was, I don't know if it was a year or 2 years ago on Instagram, and you started really getting more into costumes and the wigs and the outfits, and you were really, and I remember you did a post where you were like, people are trying to tell me I shouldn't be doing this, but this is how I feel. And I messaged you and I said, it wasn't a private message. I think I just commented on the comments, like, I love it. This is exactly, it's totally hitting for me. Like, keep doing it. Like, I don't know if that was part of
it was, I will admit it was painful at first because we adhere to these standards, but then other people also want to see others adhering to the standards. And they don't want to see, they don't typically, people that are not tuned to their own frail, they don't want to see other people tuning to theirs. And if that means that another person's defying standards, tuning to their frail, then they're like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. This is a disgrace. You shouldn't say that. You shouldn't dance like that. You shouldn't wear that, you know? And it's like, what? Like, this is what I feel compelled to do to be me, you know? And you're going to try to tell me in a space that has to do with quantum mechanics and letting go of psychological bondage and all these kinds of things, you're going to tell me that I need to be acting a specific way? No. You know, like, no. Yeah, but it was a little painful at first because everybody was coming down on me pretty hard. But I just kept doing it.
I'm so glad that you know, got that feedback and ignored it, because I mean, I don't know if you ignored it, but you just did it anyway, is the point.
Yeah.
And because you're right. It's exactly, you're living out the principles. It's like, by doing me, I'm living out the principles. This is the only way it actually can happen, because this is right. Like,
yes, this is how you do it. And this is why, you know, it's like people that get upset with me because we have courses that are paid, you know, paid courses. And they say, you shouldn't be selling that knowledge. And I say to them, this is exactly why you don't have money.
Yeah.
You don't understand recognizing value or giving value. That's and the power in that exchange. This is exactly why you don't have money. And every single time I say that to somebody that comes down on me for charging for courses, I know that I just nailed them to a cross, and they're like, oh, how dare you say that about me?
Yeah.
But it's true, you
I
know?
know.
And it's the same thing with what you're talking about, that, you know, this is how you let go. This is how you
Yes.
put yourself in front of people
Yes.
and allow yourself to be laughed at. And I swear to God, like it will open doors for you. Amazing things will happen in your life.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, this is church. Just yes, 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 Renee. Yes, all of it. Yes. So you mentioned the course. I've mentioned some of the reading I've done of your writings. What would you say if somebody wanted to begin, besides follow you on your Instagram, which I'm of course going to link. I'm going to link to your website. I'll link to everything. But where would you say somebody would start if they really want to just be introduced to reality transurfing and really learn the ins and outs? What
So
course?
Vadim Zeland's book, Reality Transurfing Steps 1 through 5, is a powerful, amazing work of knowledge. It's outrageous. This book is my Bible, but it is also what 500 or 600 pages long. It's
Oh,
not for everyone, right? It's
okay.
a huge, massive book. We have the audiobooks on the YouTube channel that are free. So you could come over and you could listen to that book. So far, I've gotten through half of the chapters of my own book, A Tale of Practical Reality Transurfing, which is essentially the opposite of what his book is. His book is verbose theory that can be abstract for some. Mine is boiling it down to what it is that you need to know and telling you what it is that I've experienced in my own life through these concepts, what has worked and what has not worked, to kind of show in a practical way of how they play out. Super entertaining. It's comprehensive. Each chapter is like an hour and a half long. It has a readable version, PDF, audio, homework. We've got a community for support, all that kind of stuff. So I would say going into both of those is probably pretty powerful. I have 1,000 free videos on YouTube of me talking virtually of every subject from every angle you can possibly imagine. And you could massively go down a rabbit hole. And I have viewers that have just mowed through all of my videos. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Like, people tell me that they've watched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of my videos. It blows my mind. So you can do that. If you want streamlined premium content, we have a vast array of courses, all the way from the basics, which is Reality 2.0. That's the fundamentals of reality transurfing, and then how they pertain in 2 different other courses that are connected, one for money and one for love and self-care and all the human emotion kind of stuff. And then there's advanced courses beyond that. My last 4 offerings, super, super advanced. People that have just read the book take them and find immense value, but there's lots of, I've been in this creator's mode for 7 years now, and we have every type of content you could possibly want. We've got it either paid or free. We've got podcasts. We've got a Facebook group with 10,000 people in there. You name it, we got it. So if you want to come over to the community and ask, we can definitely point you in the right direction.
Awesome. And now you mentioned a podcast. I didn't know you had a podcast.
Well, we've done various podcasts over the last 3 years. I've done some with this author, Xavier Waterkane, in Australia. He was great. We did a bunch of podcasts together. We had Transurf and Chill for a while. We had Transurfing After Dark. Those are all on YouTube, though. They're just YouTube format. Or I think we're actually on Spotify as well, if you search Spotify.
Okay.
So yeah, there's lots of different types of content, including hour-long podcasts that we've done.
Okay, perfect. Before we end, is there anything else you'd like to share, or just make sure people are aware of, or point people in a direction, or anything that you just want to leave us with?
I guess, and I don't want to, leave it on a note where I'm sounding kind of hokey, but I will. um, reality is not what it seems, and right before I moved here, and I was super excited for this new adventure and this new life and all the things that I'm blessed to have, my financial comfort and, good health and an amazing partner and all these amazing things. I asked myself, how did I get here? How am I this fortunate? What did I do? What's the essence of why I am now living the reality of my dreams? And my answer to myself was, I stopped taking reality at face value. I stopped viewing reality as a static apparatus that I had no control over, that was in control of me. And I began doing what I felt compelled to do every single day and being relentless about it. And I know a lot of people feel trapped right now because a lot of shit is going south in a lot of different ways in this world, but there are still some pretty decent sized cracks in the matrix that you can kind of slide into and create a life of your choosing and a life of your dreams. So I just want people to know out there that may be feeling depressed or trapped or not having the life that they want, that there absolutely is a way out, but you got to dedicate yourself and you really got to go hard on what you find that works for you and not let go of that under any circumstances,
I do. And I just think that that's an incredible message of hope, especially for all of the millions and millions and millions of people who are the walking depressed, and I think that's what we need to hear, that there is a way, there is, a path, and you will have to work, but it's available and it's accessible to every single person. And
absolutely.
And I just want to say, I want to acknowledge you for being a light in this world, for being a beacon, for being an educator, a teacher, and for being a stand for what is possible. You have inspired me. You have excited me. You have educated me. You teach me, and I am going to continue to, connect with your work. And you have no idea how grateful I am that you took the time today. And I wish you all the best.
That's so sweet of you.
In Georgia.
That's so sweet of you. I'm here alongside everyone else. I maybe I'm using these concepts a little bit longer, but I'm just here like everyone else, and I really appreciate that. And I see you too. And what you're doing is awesome. Getting this out to the world. This is some pretty powerful stuff. So kudos to you for sure.
Thanks,
Takes
lady.
a lot to do this. You're throwing yourself out there.
Well, you are part of what had allowed me to believe I could do it. So,
oh my gosh.
There you go.
Well, I wish you the best with your podcast, truly.
Thank you.
And I'll come back anytime.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Renee Garcia on Reality Transurfing. I truly believe that this is some of the most important information and relevant tools for anyone who's interested in upgrading their life or completely transforming their life. If you want to connect with Renee and learn more about Reality Transurfing, you can check out her website at www.transurfing.us. You can find her on Instagram at reality_transurfing. Her YouTube channel is amazing, and that's at youtube.com/@realitytransurfingtv. I will put all of this information linked into the show notes for your quick retrieval. If you found this information helpful and you know somebody else that might benefit, please feel free to forward this information, forward this podcast. I appreciate all of the support. If you liked the information, please like, please follow, please subscribe. And once again, no matter what, make every day a good day to die.